Heavenly Stories.
In a bustling town nestled between rolling hills, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the lesson that was about to unfold. Among them lived a wealthy and respected master, known not only for his fortune but also for his wisdom and fairness. One morning, he called together his 3 most trusted servants. Each had served him faithfully for many years, and each possessed unique strengths. "My time to journey to distant lands has come," the master announced. His voice carried authority, yet a warmth that put his servants at ease. "I am entrusting my wealth to you while I am away. To one I give 5 talents, to another 2, and to the last, 1, each according to your ability. Make the most of what I give you, and be faithful with what is entrusted." The servants bowed deeply, each feeling the weight of responsibility. The one who received 5 talents felt a surge of determination. He had always been ambitious and resourceful, eager to prove himself capable. "I will do my best, master," he said, his voice steady, though his heart raced with both excitement and apprehension. The servant given 2 talents was thoughtful and careful. He had always valued prudence and planning, and he understood the significance of this moment. "I will invest wisely and honor your trust," he assured, his eyes reflecting a quiet confidence. The servant who received a single talent hesitated. He was cautious by nature, prone to fear of failure. The master's words rang in his mind, "Each according to your ability." Could he manage even this small sum without losing it? Doubts gnawed at him, yet he nodded, promising to do what he could. With a final glance, the master departed, leaving the servants to their stewardship. The town continued its rhythm, but for these 3, time now carried a different meaning. Each day, each decision, each risk would test their character and faithfulness. The servant with 5 talents immediately set to work, seeking opportunities, forging partnerships, and carefully calculating returns. He worked tirelessly, understanding that his diligence could multiply what he had been given. The servant with 2 talents approached his task with methodical precision. He made plans, weighed options, and executed them with care. While less ambitious than his counterpart, he committed to steady growth, determined to honor the master's trust. Meanwhile, the servant with 1 talent wrestled with fear. Thoughts of loss and danger haunted him. He wondered if it might be safer to hide the talent, to bury it where no one could touch it. Yet, in the quiet moments of the night, a small voice whispered that action and courage were expected, that the gift was given for a purpose beyond mere safekeeping. As weeks passed, the 2 more ambitious servants saw their talents grow. Their efforts bore fruit, and their confidence strengthened. They experienced both challenges and small triumphs, learning lessons in patience, strategy, and resilience. Each success fueled a deeper sense of responsibility and a growing understanding that the master's gift was not merely wealth, it was trust, opportunity, and a chance to make a difference. The servant with 1 talent, however, remained paralyzed by fear. He dug a hole in the ground and carefully hid the money, telling himself that he was protecting what was not yet his to lose. Days turned into weeks, and still, he did nothing more. He watched the others thrive and could not help but feel a gnawing unease, though he stubbornly clung to the safety of inaction. Unbeknownst to all 3, the master's return was imminent. The decisions they had made, the courage they had shown, or the fear they had succumbed to, would soon be revealed. And in that moment, the truth of their hearts, the faithfulness of their spirits, and the stewardship of their gifts would come to light. This was more than a test of wealth, it was a test of character, vision, and courage. Each servant's choice reflected not just their abilities, but their understanding of responsibility, trust, and the purpose for which their talents had been given. And so, the stage was set for the master's return, a moment that would change the course of each servant's life forever. The days passed, and the town's rhythm continued, but the 3 servants each experienced time differently. For the servant with 5 talents, each morning was a chance to act. He met with traders, negotiated deals, and sought out new ventures. Every risk he took was calculated, every decision weighed with care, yet driven by a desire to multiply what he had been entrusted. He found joy in creativity, pride in diligence, and a sense of purpose in using the gifts he had received. The servant with 2 talents worked more cautiously but no less faithfully. He did not chase grand opportunities but invested steadily, nurturing each endeavor until it bore fruit. His approach was disciplined, measured, and thoughtful. Though he did not achieve dramatic gains like the first servant, his work was consistent, reliable, and productive. He understood that faithfulness was shown not only through ambition but also through steady stewardship and careful care of what was given. Meanwhile, the servant with 1 talent wrestled with unease. Each night, his thoughts were restless. The other servant's successes haunted him, yet fear restrained him. He convinced himself that the world was full of risk, that failure would bring shame, and that hiding the talent was the safest course. Day after day, he dug a small hole and covered the gold, imagining that he was keeping it safe from theft, loss, or misfortune. Yet even in hiding, the servant could not escape a subtle discomfort. The gift he had received was meant to grow, to be used for purpose, to create value beyond mere possession. But he remained paralyzed, clinging to caution and mistrust. He watched the town bustle, noticed small opportunities, even glimpsed ideas he could have tried, but fear always whispered, "It's safer to do nothing." The 2 more proactive servants noticed the contrast but did not judge him. They knew the lesson lay in choice, in courage, and in faithfulness. Each day, their talents grew, not just in value, but in wisdom, confidence, and understanding. They learned to navigate challenges, to take responsibility for outcomes, and to trust in their own abilities while remaining accountable to the master. As time passed, a pattern became clear: opportunity rewards action. Growth follows effort. Courage turns potential into reality. The servant with 1 talent felt a quiet envy, mixed with guilt, yet the comfort of inaction was still stronger than the fear of failure. He began to recognize that hiding the gift had consequences even before the master returned. The talent, meant to be multiplied, remained stagnant, and he felt its weight more keenly each day. The story of these 3 servants is more than a tale of money, it is a mirror of life itself. God entrusts each person with abilities, gifts, and opportunities. How they respond defines not just what they achieve, but who they become. The servant's choices, the courage of some, the hesitation of others, illustrate the eternal principle that gifts are meant to be used, risks are meant to be taken wisely, and fear cannot be allowed to dictate action. And so, the time of preparation continued. Each servant's heart, mind, and hands were tested in different ways. The first learned ambition balanced with wisdom, the second discipline paired with patience, and the third the weight of fear that clouds judgment. Unseen, yet deeply felt, the master's expectations lingered like a shadow over each decision. Every choice, every effort, and every hesitation was shaping the moment that would soon arrive, the master's return, and the revealing of who had been faithful and who had faltered. In this quiet tension, the stage was set for judgment, not as punishment, but as a revelation of truth. The story was unfolding, teaching a timeless lesson: gifts are not for hiding, courage is required, and responsibility is inseparable from opportunity. Each servant's journey toward that moment of reckoning held the potential to illuminate the power of faithfulness or the cost of fear. As the sun climbed higher each day, the town bustled with life, yet in quiet corners, the servants continued their work. The one with 5 talents expanded his ventures. He didn't merely trade goods, he built relationships, learned from every misstep, and discovered the value of persistence. Each success, each setback, became a lesson, sharpening his understanding of how to steward what had been entrusted to him. He recognized that the master's gift was more than money, it was trust, responsibility, and the opportunity to make a lasting impact. The servant with 2 talents also grew, though his progress was steadier. He carefully monitored his investments, making adjustments as circumstances changed. He understood that growth was not always dramatic, but slow, measured effort was just as valuable. He found satisfaction in diligence, patience, and in the quiet joy of knowing that his efforts were faithful. In time, he realized that multiplying what he had been given brought not only profit, but also inner confidence and a sense of purpose that could not be taken away. Meanwhile, the servant with 1 talent remained trapped in hesitation. Nights were the hardest. Darkness brought reflection, and with it the gnawing awareness of what he was missing. He saw the other servant's success and felt both envy and guilt, but fear still held him fast. He convinced himself that hiding the talent was wise, that protecting it from loss was a form of service. Yet deep down, he knew he was failing the master. The gift lay dormant, unproductive, untouched, a constant reminder of opportunity squandered. He began to tell himself stories of caution, imagining dangers that might befall the master's treasure. Every imagined threat became justification for inaction. But even as he buried the talent deeper, a part of him wondered, what if I am wrong? What if courage is what is expected of me? He could not answer, trapped between fear and the call to act. The town, oblivious to this silent struggle, continued to thrive. The first 2 servants' efforts had begun to create ripple effects, merchants they aided prospered, neighbors benefited from wise investments, and even small acts of fairness in trade strengthened the community. Their talents, when multiplied, reached far beyond their own benefit, touching lives they may never meet. The lesson became clear: God's gifts are not meant for isolation. Every skill, every ability, every opportunity is a seed with potential to grow, to bless, to transform. The first 2 servants discovered that faithfulness is not simply keeping what is given, it is creating, multiplying, and sharing the blessings received. Each decision to act, each step taken in courage, contributed to a larger purpose, one that extended beyond their personal gain. Meanwhile, the servant with 1 talent faced a different truth. In hiding, he learned the silent weight of regret. Opportunity waits for no one, and gifts left unused carry their own burden. His inaction was a slow erosion of potential, a subtle reminder that fear, while comforting in the short term, brings a heavier cost over time. He began to sense that one day, the master would return, and all that he had done, or failed to do, would be revealed. As the master's return grew closer, each servant's heart was stirred in anticipation. The first 2 servants looked forward with confidence and humility, aware that their actions had honored the trust placed in them. The last servant wrestled with dread, knowing that his choices had not reflected the purpose for which the talent had been given. Yet the possibility of redemption lingered quietly, dependent not on fear, but on courage and willingness to step beyond comfort. In these unfolding days, the stage was being set for a moment that would illuminate the eternal truth: gifts are entrusted not for hoarding, but for growth. Fear diminishes potential, while courage multiplies it, and faithfulness, no matter the size of the gift, shapes destiny. The world, indifferent to the struggles within each heart, waited unknowingly as lessons of trust, responsibility, and purpose quietly prepared to be revealed. Weeks turned into months, and the town continued its steady rhythm, yet the lives of the 3 servants were consumed by the choices they had made. The first servant, entrusted with 5 talents, had grown confident in his ability to create, multiply, and invest wisely. Each day, he pushed himself further, exploring new opportunities, learning from failures, and celebrating successes. The wealth he accumulated was more than material, it was wisdom, experience, and a deepened understanding of responsibility. His heart was filled with anticipation, eager to see how the master would respond to his efforts. The second servant, with 2 talents, maintained his careful diligence. He measured each step, assessed risks, and adjusted his plans accordingly. His growth was steady, unhurried, but significant. In quiet moments, he reflected on the lesson of trust. The master had given him more than money, he had given responsibility. With patience and faithfulness, he had nurtured the talents into something greater than themselves. Though less dramatic than his counterpart, his success was no less meaningful, and he felt a quiet confidence that his efforts would be recognized. The third servant, holding only 1 talent, faced a different reality. The weeks of hiding and avoiding risk weighed heavily on him. Each day, he passed the time, glancing at the other servants' thriving ventures with unease and envy. He knew, deep down, that the master's gift was meant to be multiplied, not buried, yet fear continued to govern his choices. At night, he lay awake imagining the master's return, feeling the tightening grip of dread. What would happen when the master discovered that his talent had not been used at all? The servant's fear was compounded by self-justification. He reminded himself of imagined risks, dangers, and the harshness he believed the master would display. Yet even in these excuses, he felt a flicker of truth: he had failed to act. The talent lay dormant, a seed that had never touched the soil, a gift squandered through inaction. The thought gnawed at him, yet he still could not summon the courage to rectify his inaction. Meanwhile, the other two servants continued to experience the rewards of diligence and courage. Their efforts not only increased wealth but also built community and trust. Traders, neighbors, and friends benefited from their initiatives. Their talents, used faithfully, had far-reaching impact beyond what they could have imagined. They began to understand a greater principle: gifts are not simply for personal gain, they are entrusted to serve, to create, and to multiply for the benefit of others. The town itself began to notice the prosperity brought about by the first two servants. People spoke of their skill, their wisdom, and their fairness. They did not seek praise, their satisfaction came from knowing they had honored the master's trust. Yet even as the town celebrated the visible results, the greatest lesson remained unseen: the principle that faithfulness, courage, and wise stewardship bring life and growth, while fear and inaction stifle potential. As the day of the master's return approached, tension grew within the three servants. The first two felt excitement mixed with humility. They knew they had done well, but they also understood that the ultimate recognition came not from their own assessment, but from the master himself. The third servant, meanwhile, felt a growing sense of doom. He could no longer ignore the truth that his fear had robbed him of opportunity. The anticipation of the master's return was not merely about reward or punishment. It was about revelation, about uncovering the truth of how each person responded to what had been entrusted. The first two servants embodied courage, diligence, and faithfulness. The last servant embodied hesitation, fear, and avoidance. Their actions, and the hearts behind them, would soon be revealed, illustrating a timeless lesson: how one uses the gifts given by God determines not only outcomes, but the state of the soul. And so, with the master approaching, the stage was set for accountability. Every choice, every risk, every effort, or lack thereof, would come to light. The servants, though unseen by the town, were on the brink of a moment that would define their lives, a moment that would reveal the true value of courage, diligence, and the faithful use of God-given talents. As the sun rose over the hills, casting long golden rays across the valley, the master returned from his distant journey. The servants who had been entrusted with his talents gathered nervously, each wondering how they would be judged. The one who had received 5 talents stepped forward first, his face bright with confidence. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I have gained 5 more talents through your trust." The master's eyes softened with approval. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Pride and relief washed over the servant as he realized that his diligence and courage had been recognized. Next came the servant who had received 2 talents. "Master," he spoke, "I have earned 2 more talents with what you entrusted to me." The master's face lit with approval, and he said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have proven yourself faithful. You too shall share in the blessings of many responsibilities. Enter into the joy of your master." Gratitude filled the servant's heart, and he felt a deep sense of purpose, knowing that using his gifts had been the right path. Finally, the servant who had received 1 talent approached, his steps hesitant and heavy. He bowed low, avoiding his master's eyes. "Master," he said softly, "I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter. So I was afraid, and I hid your talent in the ground. Here, take what is yours." The master's face darkened. "You wicked and lazy servant. You knew my expectations, yet you did nothing with what I gave you. You could have at least put the money in the bank so it would earn interest. Now, your talent will be taken from you and given to the one who has 10. The servant trembled, realizing too late that fear and inaction had robbed him of opportunity, and his gift would now benefit someone else. As the other servants watched, they understood a profound truth. God's gifts are not meant to be hidden or hoarded. They are entrusted to each person, not for fear, but for courage, creativity, and growth. Every talent, be it wisdom, skill, wealth, or compassion, is a seed planted to bear fruit. Those who cultivate their gifts receive blessing and joy, those who bury them face loss and regret. The story rippled through the minds of the servants and the people who heard it. It was a call to action, a reminder that life is filled with opportunities to serve, to create, to bless others. It was not enough to merely have potential, one must act, invest, and grow. Each talent, small or great, carries responsibility. Inaction, fear, or laziness squanders divine opportunity, while faithfulness, diligence, and courage bring abundant reward. And so, the servants who had multiplied their talents walked away with hearts full of purpose, determined to continue serving and creating. They knew the joy of their master was not just a reward but a reflection of the joy that comes from living fully in alignment with their gifts. The one who buried his talent walked away with shame and a lesson he would never forget, that fear and inaction could never fulfill the potential that God had entrusted to him. The lesson was clear for anyone who would hear it in the years to come: God gives each person what they can handle, expecting growth and faithfulness. And whether the gifts are large or small, the call is the same: to use them, to multiply them, to make them matter in the world. The servant's choices mirrored a greater truth: it is not the quantity of gifts that defines a life, but the courage to act and the willingness to bear fruit. After the master had addressed each servant, a quiet settled over the gathered crowd. The valley seemed still, as if even nature was pausing to witness the unfolding lesson. The servants who had faithfully multiplied their talents stood with a sense of purpose, their hearts light, yet their minds aware that the true reward was not wealth, but the acknowledgement that they had acted faithfully. Their courage and diligence had produced results far beyond numbers. They had embraced responsibility, made decisions, and allowed their gifts to bear fruit. The servant who had buried his talent lingered at the edge, heavy with regret. Fear had held him back, and now he faced the consequences of his inaction. Yet even in that moment, a deeper understanding stirred within him: gifts are entrusted not for safety, but for purpose, opportunities are meant to be embraced, not hidden, courage is required to fulfill the potential within. His lesson was painful, but the truth was clear: inaction diminishes not only the gift but also the life that could have been lived fully. The master turned to all who were watching, speaking as if the words themselves were seeds planting themselves in the hearts of the listeners. To each of you, talents are given according to your ability. How you choose to use them will define not only your life, but the impact you leave on the world. Courage, diligence, and faithfulness multiply what is entrusted. Fear, laziness, and hesitation bury potential and squander opportunity. The measure of a life is not the wealth held, but the love, service, and creativity that are shared through what is given. The crowd absorbed the lesson, understanding that it was not simply a story of money or material gain, but a metaphor for life itself. Every person carries gifts, skills, wisdom, compassion, and opportunity, that, when used wisely, grow beyond imagination. Every small act of courage, every attempt to improve, and every risk taken in faithfulness multiplies blessings in ways often unseen. Likewise, hoarding gifts out of fear, avoiding responsibility, or failing to act diminishes not only potential but the joy and purpose meant to accompany it. The faithful servants continued their work, now emboldened by recognition and a renewed sense of purpose. Their talents became instruments for building community, creating opportunity for others, and leaving a lasting mark on the world. They understood that the joy of the master reflected the joy of a life lived fully, responsibly, and courageously. The servant who had buried his talent left with a heavy heart, but the lesson was etched deeply in his soul. He understood now that fear must never guide action, and that true faith requires taking risks and using what is given. Though he had lost the gift he failed to nurture, he carried forward the wisdom of experience, a silent reminder to himself and to others that opportunity is fleeting, and courage is essential. And so, the story of the talents became a timeless lesson, echoing across generations. It called each person to examine their own gifts, to ask, what am I doing with what has been entrusted to me? Am I hiding it out of fear, or am I using it boldly to create, serve, and multiply? The answer determines not only the measure of success but the fulfillment of purpose and the legacy left behind. In the end, the message was clear: God entrusts gifts to each person according to their ability. What matters is not the size of the gift, but the faithfulness with which it is used. Courage transforms potential into reality, diligence multiplies blessings, and every faithful act contributes to a life of meaning. To act boldly, to serve faithfully, and to embrace responsibility, this is the way to live in alignment with the gifts given, and to enter fully into the joy that comes from a life well lived.